and welcome to Narayana IAS. My name is Abhijit Srivastav. We are here to discuss daily news analysis. Today is 28th March 2024 and let's have a quick view over the topics that we are going to discuss here. First article is from page number 13, the Indian Express Delhi edition, which talks about holes in social security. So, what is social security? What are the social security initiatives that has been taken by several governments, and how we can improve the situation, that will be discussed here. Second article is from page number 12, which talks about experiments with water, within which we will be discussing how Indian cities are grappling with severe water crisis and how we can improve the urban lifestyle, right? Next article is from page number 13, the Hindu Delhi edition, which talks about RBI modified norms for lenders having exposure to AIFs, that is alternative investment funds. This article is more relevant for UPSC prelims examination. We'll be discussing what are the AIFs and how it is affecting our economy. Then next article is from page number 8, which talks about optional T+0 settlement. This T+0 settlement is a tool in capital market. Then we'll be discussing capital market and T+0 settlement. And last article is ED issues fresh summons to Isaac in masala bond case. We'll be discussing masala bond in a greater detail here. After all these articles, we will be discussing prelims and mains related questions. So let's start our discussion. Embark on your UPSC journey with Narayana IAS Academy. Our esteemed 5-year and 3-year integrated programs now open for admissions in Hyderabad, Vijayawada and Nellore. Our courses includes robust R&D backed initiatives such as first, daily news analysis and daily news read, comprehensive review program for a broader understanding of current affairs, second, NCERT program, a foundational course that covers all NCERT syllabi, crucial for UPSC preparation. Third, mentorship program for personalized guidance and regular test series for systematic learning and assessment. So begin your journey to becoming a leader with Narayana IAS Academy today. So the first article for today's discussion is holes in social security. What is social security? Social security is the financial support given by society at large or state to the individual in case of any financial uncertainty. For example, you are more than 60-year-old person, right? And you are not capable enough to contribute to the labor force. Now you are not earning any income. In such scenario, if state or society at large is giving you the pension, that is called social security, right? This article is arguing that even after the fact that we have accepted social security as basic human rights, right? The social protection architecture emerging in India is not only chaotic, but also the people who have very less or little political leverage seems to be losing out even existing levels of protection, right? Why this article is important? Because this article is discussing about social security, and in GS paper 2 there's a topic, government policies and intervention for the development in various sectors, and this social security is helpful in every stage of life of an individual, right? Let's understand the importance of this article and this whole issue through previous year question 2013. UPSC asked about demographic dividend. So in upcoming future, you can expect questions related with the social security as well. What is the context? The social protection architecture as per the article is emerging in India is chaotic, right? How chaotic? Because it's unbalanced. The people who have more political leverage are getting benefited from the social security initiatives, but the people who have less political leverage seems to be losing out on even existing level of protection, right? Similar type of wording, similar type of phrase has been earlier used by economic survey, that is bounty for well-offs, right? The schemes are used by people who are already well-offs, right? Okay. Social security as a human right, as a recognized human rights. Firstly, let's define it. The social sector security scheme in India aims to provide financial protection to individuals. As we have discussed, it offers social support to families during various life stages, right? The United Nations Declaration of Human Rights recognized this social security as basic human right, okay? And the ILO in 2012 urged all the countries to establish a social protection floor, okay? Indian Constitution under DPSP from Article 41 to 43B. Apart from this 41 to 43B, there are also several provisions through which our Constitution envisages us to provide social security to the people. How? Let's discuss. Article 41. The state shall, within the limits of economic capacity and development, make effective provision for securing right to work. That means at youthful stage, it's responsibility of the government under welfare setup to provide and secure right to work, education, and public assistance in case of unemployment. So at a particular stage, if you are unemployed, it's responsibility of the state to give you certain economic benefits or support in case of any financial uncertainty, right? Also for old age, sickness, and disablement. So this covers under insurance and old age pension. Unemployment salaries or compensation to unemployed people, right? Article 42 states that states shall make provision for ensuring humane condition for work and maternity relief. This maternity relief is also part of social security. Article 43, states shall endeavor to secure by suitable legislation or economic organization or in any other way to all workers, agriculture, industrial, or otherwise work a living wage. This living wage or minimum wage, condition of work, and decent standard of life is also part of social security if we define social security in a broader way, right? Article 43, it talks about participation of worker in the management of industry, and Article 43B, it talks about promotion of cooperative society. So all these articles are promoting social security initiatives, social security to the common people, right? What is the trend that is important for us from Prelims point of view? The ILO's 2022 report, it highlights that India's expenditure on social protection is insufficient, noting the vulnerability and precariousness experienced by informal workforce. So informal workforce is facing brunt of lack of social security, which constitute almost 90% of workforce of India, right? But there is an expansion of social protection from 2019 to 2024. India witnessed a slow yet steady expansion in social protection programs, and specifically towards the women. It's in favor of women, right? Primarily driven by political economic factor. A CRISIL report 2023, it indicates a rise in social welfare expenditure from 1.2 to 1.3% to about 1.6% of this gross state domestic product in the studied states, right? So CRISIL report also argues that India is now increasing its expenditure on social sector or social security aspect, right? Let's see some of the government scheme or central government schemes which is in respect to the social security or providing social security. But before that, we need to understand the trend towards the gender equality with respect to social sector of social security. This recent initiatives like Himachal, Delhi and Chandigarh have focused on income transfer schemes for women, and there is also trend which is in favor of women, right? For example, Drone Didi and Lakhpati Didi by the central government, right? There are multiple elements of this social security coverage. First is economic development, which includes poverty alleviation and inclusive development. How government envisages to reduce the poverty? So there are multiple approaches. First approach is trickle down theory or trickle down approach, through which government is envisaging the development of higher strata and the wealth creation. Government is focusing on wealth creation, and government is believing or estimating that this wealth generated by the upper strata will percolate to the downward section, right? So, for example, development of SEZ, right? So, this is an example of trickle-down approach. Second is redistribution of the resources. So, these are the approaches of poverty alleviation which we can mention in the mains examination. So, redistribution of resources. Best example can be progressive taxation and subsidies given at different levels or subsidies given to different sectors, right? Third example is employment generation. This employment generation can be of two types: wage employment and gainful employment. For example, Manrega scheme, managed by Ministry of Rural Development, and this gives at least 100 days of guaranteed wage employment opportunity to every rural household, right? What about gain employment? For example, reservation system in the government or public employment opportunities, right? Fourth approach is inclusive development. That is, for example, financial inclusion is an example of inclusive development. According to Nachiket Moore Committee, financial inclusion includes 6 basic elements. For example, creation of bank accounts, Jan Dhan Yojana, enabling people to transact easily. For example, creating white label ATMs or creating more NBFCs or payment banks, facilitating credit availability to the people, insurance and pension schemes, for example, Atal Pension Yojana, and the customer protection or grievance redressal mechanism, right? So this was the fourth type of approach for poverty alleviation. Fifth type of approach can be human development. Government is also focusing on human development or various aspects of human development such as health, education, skill, entrepreneurship, etc. Right? Through which we can alleviate poverty as well. And last approach is capability approach, specifically focusing on entrepreneurship development and skill development, right? Other schemes such as with respect to human development, with respect to health, there are schemes such as Ayushman Bharat. This Ayushman Bharat includes insurance scheme, health and wellness centers, creation of health and wellness centers, and Jan Arogya, creation of Jan Arogya centers, right? So this Ayushman Bharat initiative was started by Ministry of Health and Family Welfare, right? With respect to education, there are certain schemes such as Samagra Shiksha. Samagra Shiksha is an integrated scheme for school education focusing on pre-education to 12th class, right? Which is under the Ministry of Education, right? And state authorities are the implementing bodies regarding this. This will be focusing on accessibility, equity, as well as vocalization in school education, right? With respect to skill and entrepreneurship, there are schemes such as Stand Up India by Ministry of Commerce and Industry, which is focusing on entrepreneurial development. Other aspects such as environmental sustainability also becomes part of the social security. How? For example, Secure Himalaya. The Secure Himalaya was started by MOEFCC, Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change, which is focusing on the sustainability or sustainable use and restoration of Himalayan high range Himalayan region, right? This Secure Himalaya is supported by GEF and UNDP, right? Also, the implementing body is taking support of traffic. It's an international NGO, right? As far as community development and cultural preservation, this also becomes the part of social security. Several tribal schemes such as Tribal Cultural Center, which is recently opened in Jharkhand. The name of the area was Serai Khela Khar Sawan, which is in Jharkhand. And to protect the tribal culture in the region, the Tribal Culture Center was created or was established. There are also schemes such as PM Janman scheme. This scheme is an umbrella scheme comprising 11 initiatives and taking help of almost 9 ministries. And the nodal authority is Ministry of Tribal Affairs, right? There are also certain schemes related with the rural and agricultural development, such as Agriculture Infrastructure Fund, which is started by Ministry of Agriculture, and the implementing authority is NABARD, which is intended to give long-term loan facility or debt financing facility to farmers, FPOs, SHGs, APMC, etc. Right? And there are also certain schemes which are related with the human rights and disaster relief, which becomes a part of social security if we take a broader definition of social security. Next article is experiments with water. This water has been central point of civilization, human civilization or human society. How water is being used as utilities, various utilities such as drinking water or washing clothes. It has been used in agriculture, irrigation, or making crops usable for fooding. Industries are thrived on water, for example, leather industry or cotton industry. It has been used as a means for transport as well, for example, waterways. Our cities are thrived on water. Without water, we cannot ensure sustainable cities, or even the cities cannot be envisaged without water. The whole life system is based on water. And lastly, the inclusion. If we ensure EUSA, that is universal, equitable, safe and affordable water, that is envisaged under SDG 6, then only we can ensure gender inclusion in our society, right? But why this article is important? Because this article is showing that water supply and quality in India is not only bad, but it is deteriorating, specifically in the urban areas. And we have to rethink for, or we have to go towards centralized delivery system. We have to opt for one water policy, right? Why this article is important? Because this article is discussing the severe water crisis in urban cities, urban areas of India, specifically in Bangalore. India's water security, how it's important, why it's important, how we can ensure. And this article is also discussing about Amrit 2.0. GS paper 3, there's a topic environment, ecology, environment, pollution, degradation, and conservation, which is directly associated with water crisis and conservation, right? Let's understand the importance of this whole topic or issue through previous year question. 2020 and 2018 and various years, UPSC has directly asked about the water crisis. For example, Jal Shakti Abhiyan and water harvesting system. So you can expect such type of question in future as well. What is the context? Major cities in India, especially Bangalore, are facing severe water crisis, highlighting a common oversight in urban planning as well as water supply, right? Because water supply are often being neglected and is moving towards in the hands of some private organization which are profit oriented, not public oriented, right? Bangalore is going through its most severe water shortage in years, worsened by the last year's poor monsoon season, uncontrolled urban expansion, and diminishing groundwater levels. These are the three basic reasons behind water crisis in each and every urban areas, urban centers in India, right? As per Pejal Sarvekshan, it's a ground survey under Atal Mission for Rejuvenation and Urban Transformation, that is Amrit 2.0, launched by Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs. A mere 10% of Indian cities fulfill the criteria of potable water, and second, a significant portion of India's urban dwellers lack access to safe drinking water. So this data is important for prelims point of view, right? But before going into detail, let's understand what is water crisis and what are the causes of water crisis in specifically in urban centers, right? Water crisis, as per World Bank, it defines if water availability, annual per capita availability is less than 1000 cubic meter, it will become water crisis, or it can be termed as water crisis. As per Niti Aayog's report, Niti Aayog's Composite Water Management Index report, India is experiencing the worst water crisis in its history. Nearly 600, as per this data, as per this report, nearly 600 million people are suffering from high to extreme water stress, and approximately 2 lakh people die annually due to inadequate access to safe drinking water, right? So what are the reasons behind water crisis specifically in the Bangalore region? Firstly, reduced rainfall. Almost 39% of the total capacity of various rivers such as Harangi, Himavati and Kabini. All these rivers are in the catchment area of Kaveri River. Less than 39% of the total capacity is filled with water. And also the southern states don't have the perennial source of water, perennial rivers, right? So it is more dependent upon the monsoon and the availability of water during monsoon season, right? And because of climate change, we are witnessing erratic nature of monsoon in India, and because of which the water availability to these rivers, these seasonal rivers, is decreasing and depleting, right? There's also depletion of groundwater in the Bangalore region specifically, and in urban centers generally we have witnessed. For example, the water availability or the groundwater availability in Bangalore was initially almost 35,000 million cubic feet, which has decreased to 2,000 million cubic feet, and which is very stressful situation for Bangalore. There's also destruction of natural water bodies, and there is a mismanagement and inequitable distribution of water within the Bangalore region. How? Because mismanagement means there's a wastage of water, there is misappropriation of water, and one specific example you can take is easement or misuse of Easement Act 1882. This Easement Act 1882 allows landowners to collect and dispose water within their limit. So for example, you own a land, and within this land you can dig and extract water as much as you can. This creates no accountability for over extraction of groundwater, right? So the people who can afford land can have the groundwater, and they can extract as much as water they can, right? And that is creating mismanagement as well, right? What about India's water security? Water availability in India, because India is home to almost 18% of the worldwide human population and 15% of the worldwide animal population. However, it has just 4% of worldwide fresh water assets. Even after that, India is a water export country. How? For example, India is exporting rice, and this rice is utilizing a huge amount of water, because of which this we are exporting water as well, right? India is a water stressed country with per capita water availability decreasing over the years. How? In terms of per capita water availability, India ranks 133rd out of 180 countries in 2021 with 1544 cubic meters per year per person or per capita. According to the Composite Water Management Index published by Niti Aayog report of 2019, around 75% households in India do not have access to drinking water at their premises, and 70% of the country's water is contaminated. And this shows the mismanagement and inequitable distribution of water, right? There's also increasing water demand. Urban water demand in India is projected to increase from 42 billion cubic meter in 2000 to 74 billion cubic meters in 2050, because urban population is increasing day by day. This increase in demand due to growing population, increased urbanization, and rising incomes. This groundwater depletion is also a concern, because India is the largest user of groundwater. For example, in India, agriculture is using almost 80%, or this irrigation in agriculture is using 80% of fresh water resources, within which 87% of water comes out of groundwater, right? So it is creating issues for water supply, and the overall stage of groundwater extraction in the country is almost 60.08%. Okay, this picture shows that these red regions are facing most severe crisis as far as water or groundwater crisis is concerned. What are the major challenges regarding water management in India? Firstly, water pollution. As per Water Quality Index, India ranks 120 out of 122 countries in the world, right? Almost 70% of the water is polluted, contaminated as per Niti Aayog's report, right? Also, as per NPCB, National Pollution Control Board, only 37% of the used water is being recycled in India, and that is the estimation by NPCB. But some independent sources also says that it is lesser than 20%, right? There's also inefficient water usage. We have seen that agriculture is using almost 80% of fresh sources of water, and within which 87% is extracted from the groundwater itself, right? This over usage of water in agriculture is creating or is associated with two basic problems, that is water seepage and water extraction, water evaporation. This water seepage and water evaporation is causing almost 60% of water loss because of agriculture, right? There's also unregulated water, groundwater extraction that we have seen in the Easement Act of 1882, right? There's also problem because of climate change. Because of climate change, there are two important issues. First is erratic nature of monsoon, and second is loss of glaciers in Himalayan region. Because of this loss of glaciers in Himalayan region, the water availability to the perennial rivers of North India is depleting, is decreasing, right? So this climate change is also affecting or creating water scarcity in Indian region. There's also water management policies and governance. How? This water management, there is no coherence, there's no synchronization of water management policies at the center level and the state level, right? There's no common policy, right? And there's also a lack of accountability in water usage. So it lacks governance as well, right? Because of which we are witnessing that India is at the brink of water crisis. How? As per climate risk index, India is 7th most vulnerable country as far as climate change is concerned or climate risk is concerned, right? So what are the steps taken for effective water management and promoting water security? There are multiple schemes such as Jal Jeevan Mission. It envisioned to provide safe and adequate drinking water through individual household tap connection by 2024 to all household in rural India. So what are the key points here? Rural India, household is the target audience, 2024 is the time limit, and safe and adequate drinking water through tap connections. So these are the important key points under the Jal Jeevan Mission. What about Jal Shakti Abhiyan? It was launched in 2019, a time-bound campaign with a mission mode approach intended to improve water availability, including groundwater conditions in water-stressed block of 256 district in India. So Jal Shakti Abhiyan is linked or is associated with 256 district in India. Third is Jal Kranti Abhiyan. It focuses on active efforts to revolutionize villages and cities through block level water conservation scheme. So there are various traditional water conservation efforts or initiatives or processes that we have, and through this Jal Kranti Abhiyan, we are creating or we are rejuvenating these block level water conservation schemes. Next is National Water Policy. This policy advocates rainwater harvesting and conservation of water and highlights the need for augmenting the availability of water through direct use of rainfall. So this National Water Policy is emphasizing on rainfall or rainwater harvesting mechanism. National Water Mission, it aims to conserve water, minimize wastage, and ensure more equitable distribution both across and within states through integrated water resources development and management. Other missions are such as groundwater legislation, Atal Bhujal Yojana, and National Water Awards, right? So these are the several initiatives to promote effective water management and promoting water security. Even after that, India needs a centralized water availability policy and program, that is one water approach, right? Next article is RBI modifies norms for lenders having exposure to AIF, that is alternative investment funds. Why this article is important? Because it is mentioning alternative investment funds which can be helpful in prelims examination, and how RBI is regulating the regulated entities to whether invest or not invest in AIFs. In GS paper 3, there's a topic effects of liberalization on economy is directly associated with this. What is the context? RBI. Earlier, RBI has prohibited regulated entities. What are regulated entities? What are AIFs? We'll be looking in a couple of minutes. But earlier, RBI has prohibited these entities, that is regulated entities, to invest in alternative investment funds. Now, RBI has modified this provision, right? Why they have prohibited? Because this regulated entities, when they were investing in AIF, it was causing ever greening of loans specifically to startups, right? But after prohibition, after some time, RBI has now modified the rules. Now it is allowing these regulated entities to invest in AIF. So what are regulated entities? Banks, NBFCs, all those entities which are governed by RBI are regulated entities for this purpose, right? What are AIF? So initially there were some traditional mechanisms in which you can invest and earn dividend, right? Such as stocks, bonds, cash, fixed deposit, etc., etc. Now, let's suppose you are an investor, you have a lot of money, right? And now you are thinking that these traditional investments are not giving due dividend or return for your investment. You now want more dividend and investment, or rapid increase, heavy increase in your investment, right? So you can invest in startups, right? You can invest in hedge funds to prevent tax or to reduce the tax burden, right? So these things are often called as alternate investment funds, which are not covered in the traditional, or which are beyond the traditional investment, right? And these are the privately pooled investment vehicles. For example, there are certain fund managers, right? Professional fund managers. They are getting funds from sophisticated investors, like the people who have a lot of money. They are getting money from these sophisticated investors, and as per these fund managers policy, they are investing in various investment mechanism. This investment mechanism is called as AIFs, right? Which is beyond the traditional investment mechanism. These AIFs are managed by professional fund managers, that we have seen, professional fund managers, and are typically available only to accredited investors or institutionals like banks, due to their higher risk and potentially higher returns, right? These AIFs typically cater to accredited investors or institutional investors who have a high net worth or significant investment experience. These investors are considered capable of understanding and bearing the risk associated with the alternative investment funds, right? This alternative investment fund is adhering, or this professional fund managers are adhering the SEBI rules 2012, right? And they have to register with SEBI as well, right? There are three types of alternative investment fund: category 1, category 2, and category 3. Basically, category 1 are those investments which are associated with startups or MSMEs or similar like of entities. So if a professional manager is investing money to startups or SMEs, etc., this will be considered as category 1 AIF, right? Second type of category is that AIF which is not the category 1 or neither category 1 nor category 3, and this category 2 is being used in or is being used to meet day to day operations. Third category, it deploys money to trading strategies, different trading strategies such as hedge fund, right? Okay, so these are the alternative investment funds. Now, what is the background? In December 2023, RBI stopped banks and NBFCs from investing in AIF. Now, what was the rationale behind stopping or preventing? Because suppose a bank is investing in some startup. Now, this startup is not creating enough dividend or profit to prevent any kind of bad loan, or in case startups are not returning the or giving the interest, this bank is again giving the money or giving help through the money to these startups, right? This is called evergreening of loan. They are again and again, these banks are again and again giving startups to repay the interest, right? And this is creating debt trap, right? So to prevent this debt trap or evergreening of loan, RBI stopped banks from investing in AIFs earlier, 2023. Now they have changed the rule for these financial institutions such as bank and NBFCs, and they have made certain rules for financial institutions when they invest in this special funds known as AIF, right? Now, RBI says the bank only needs to set aside money for the part of its investment that the AIF uses to invest in the debtor company, not the entire investment in the AIF. RBI clarifies that these new rules don't apply when the AIF invests in equity shares of the company that owes the bank money. The rules cover other types of investment like hybrid instruments. Hybrid instruments are financial products that combine features of both debt and equity. If the bank's investment in an AIF is through intermediaries like mutual funds or fund of funds, these new rules don't apply. So these are the certain changes that RBI has brought. Next article is optional T+0 settlement from today. How will it benefit investors? This article is discussing about a settlement system related with capital market. So this article is important from prelims point of view. What is settlement system? Let's take an example. So there are several investors. They are investing in some stock exchange. Let's suppose they are investing through some stock exchange to certain companies. And in between these, there are certain brokers, right? So investor will give money to broker. Broker will invest in the companies, and through which they will get some certificates. So it's called a transaction. How much time this complete transaction will take, this is called settlement, right? Why this article is important? Because it is discussing about capital market growth, T+0 settlement system. What are T+0 settlement? We will be looking in a couple of minutes. But what is T+0 settlement system? And it is associated with capital market. This you need to take in your mind, right? In GS paper 3, there is a topic mobilization of resources that is directly associated. Previously, UPSC has asked question from the capital market and various other mechanism through which companies or investors are taking benefit or profit, right? So what is the context? BSC and NSC on the recommendation of SEBI, right? They have launched beta version of T+0 settlement cycle on an optional basis. That means this is optional for investors. Investor can choose T+1 settlement system or T+0 settlement system. But this optional facility is not available to companies, right? Okay. Last year, SEBI proposed to introduce facility for clearing and settlement of funds and security on T+0 same day on optional basis. Now come to T+0 and T+1. If this transaction is completed within a day, that is T+0. But if this whole transaction is taking one extra day, that is T+1. Similarly, T+2 means transaction is taking 2 extra days, right? SEBI has already set operational guidelines for the launch of a shorter tenure settlement cycle. The regulator has also proposed to introduce optional instant settlement at a later stage. What is T+0 settlement cycle? Also known as same day settlement. That is 0. This transaction is taking 0 extra days, right? In a new addition to the trading framework where the settlement of trade happens on the same day. This cycle allows investor to receive funds and securities on the same day they execute a trade, contrasting with the traditional T+1 cycle where settlement occurs the next day, right? In layman terms, if investors sell a share, they will get the money credited to their account the same day, and the buyer will also get the share in their demat account on the way day of the transaction. What are the key features? Same day transaction, same day settlement, optional to the investor, and participation is open to all investor meeting specific requirements. What are the advantages? It will increase the efficiency. If you decrease the time, it will increase the efficiency. It will attract more liquidity because people are now more attracted towards this T+0 because it's taking lesser time. It will give greater flexibility and control over their security to the investors, and it will improve the risk management. For example, if you apprehend that this stock will cause you some losses, you will take out your money immediately. So these are the benefits or advantages of T+0 settlement for the investors. Last article for today's discussion is ED issues fresh summon to Isaac in Masala bond case. This news is not important for us for our UPSC objective, but the concept associated with this news are important, such as Masala bond and Kerala Infrastructure Investment Fund Board. Earlier, what was happening, whenever Indian companies, they went for any international commercial borrowing, they had to rely on international currencies such as dollar or euro. In case of any international volatility, the brunt had to face by the Indian companies. How? Let's take an example. Let's suppose Indian rupee is associated with dollar in such a fashion that X rupees are important or needed to convert it to Y dollar. In case of any international volatility such as Fed cut or rise in international prices of oil, rupee depreciated. In case of any rupee depreciation, this X will increase. Now, Indian companies had to give more X to convert it to Y dollar. In such case, there are multiple cascading effects. Some of them, for example, the prices or international prices of international commodity will be increased, right? Second, the cost of borrowing for Indian companies will be increased. In such situation, or to tackle such situation, to control such situation, Indian government came up with this concept known as masala bond. This masala bond or such type of currency denominated bonds are not new. There were earlier examples by another country to promote their currencies internationally. They had issued such type of bonds, right? Why this article is important for us, for UPSC? Firstly, because of masala bonds. Secondly, because of Kerala Infrastructure Investment Fund Board, because Kerala was the first state to issue masala bond, and this KIIF was the first entity to issue masala bond, right? In GS paper 3, there is a topic, Indian economy and issues relating to planning. this mobilization of resources is associated with masala bonds. Previously, UPSC has directly asked about masala bond, right? So in upcoming exam, you can expect such type of questions. What is the context? Enforcement Directorate has issued summon to Kerala's Finance Minister Thomas Isaac regarding investigation which is related with the issuing of masala bond by the Kerala Infrastructure Investment Board. What is masala bond? Masala bonds are rupee denominated bonds. Okay, that is, the funds would be raised from overseas market in Indian rupees. Now, Indian companies can borrow in Indian rupees. They need not to go for international currencies. So, it will protect Indian companies from any kind of price volatility of international price of Indian rupees, right? Eligibility: any corporate entity or Indian bank can issue masala bond, but there are certain usage restriction. For example, the money which get from masala bond cannot be used for specific real estate activities such as land purchase or lending for these purposes, right? Also, it cannot be used for capital market investment. But there are certain exceptions such as integrated township and affordable housing project. So in such type of projects, masala bonds can be used, but in these specific real estate activities or capital market investment, masala bonds or the money which was gained with the help of masala bonds cannot be used. There are also issuance condition. This masala bond can only be issued to the members of FATF, right? Also, all those multilateral organizations or financial institutions to which India is a member can be issued, or this masala bond can be issued, right? There's also maturity period. The maturity period for masala bond is a minimum of 3 years for amount up to rupee equivalent to USD 50 million. This data is not important, but you can see here that there is a maturity period. And if we go for 5 years, this amount can be exceed the threshold, right? Now, comes to currency risk transfer. Whenever there is a currency transfer, there is a risk. Now, this risk is transferred from Indian companies to the investors. And this is creating apprehension in the minds of investors as well. So, there are certain challenges. First challenge is sustainability challenge. The investors has apprehension that whenever there is a rupee depreciation, they have to face the brunt, right? Second, monetary policy. RBI can increase or decrease the policy rate, because of which we can see rupee depreciation or appreciation. Now, investor has to face such kind of situation, right? There are also tax uncertainties regarding masala bonds or the money which we get from masala bond or the dividend that investor get from the masala bond, right? There's also exchange rate risk we have discussed earlier. That exchange rate risk will be faced by or borne by the investors or foreign investors, right? But there are certain benefits of masala bond as far as India is concerned. How? This masala bond will be helpful in tapping the international capital. Second, it will be helpful in rupees internationalization. Thirdly, it will influence the debt market dynamics in favor of Indian companies, and it will enhance the domestic bond markets, right? As far as comparison of this masala bond with the global bonds is concerned, there are multiple such type of bonds issued by various countries, such as dim sum bond, that is renminbi, that is Chinese renminbi denominated bonds issued in Hong Kong, and second is samurai bonds, yen dominated bond issued in Japan. All these bonds help these countries in internationalizing their currencies, right? Now we have seen the masala bond. Now come to the Kerala Infrastructure Investment Fund Board, right? This KIIFB is the first entity to issue masala bond, right? In London Stock Exchange, okay? The KIIFB was established in 1999. This year is not important, but this is a statutory body, okay? Under Kerala Infrastructure Investment Fund Act, right? Originally, it aimed at funding critical and substantial infrastructure projects within Kerala, but from 2016, the role has increased from managing investment bonds to actively mobilizing resources for the development projects beyond the state budget's scope, right? So far, we have discussed all the important articles. Now, let's do some practice question. First question is with reference to T+0 settlement cycle, which was in news recently, consider the following statements. It's a trade settlement mechanism set in motion by SEBI, according to which clearing and settlement of funds and securities will be done on the same day. That is correct. The market regulator SEBI has made it mandatory to switch to mandatory, no, it's optional, to T+0 settlement cycle for the sake of market efficiency. Yes, it is for the sake of market efficiency, but it's not mandatory. So A part will be the correct answer. Second question, the Reserve Bank of India, RBI, acts as a banker's bank. This would imply which of the following? Banks retain their deposit with the RBI? Yes. The RBI lends funds to the commercial banks in times of need? Yes. RBI advises the commercial banks on monetary matters? Yes. So all options will be correct. Consider the following statements regarding masala bonds. Masala bonds are only domestic currency denominated bonds in Asia? No. There are various other domestic currency denominated bonds that we have seen. GIFT in Gujarat was the first to issue masala bonds? No, it's KIIFB. So answer would be D. None of the above is the correct answer. With reference to alternative investment funds, consider the following statement. AIFs are category of pooled investment vehicles that invest in assets beyond traditional investments like stocks, bonds, and cash. That is correct. AIFs are available not only to accredited investors or institutions like banks due to their high risk and potential higher return, but also to the retail investor. No, for retail investor, no. It's only for accredited investors and institutions. So A part will be the correct answer. Consider the following statements regarding social security in India. From 2019 to 2024, India witnessed a steady expansion in social protection programs. Yes, informal workers, which constitutes about 90% of India's workforce, are often outside the purview of any social security schemes. If we remove this often, this statement will become incorrect, but often it is correct. So answer will be C part. Let's do some practice, mains practice question. Question is, evaluate the extent of water crisis in urban India, especially in the recent context, and discuss the policy measures needed to ensure sustainable water management in Indian cities. So first part is to evaluating the extent of water crisis in urban India. So we can take an example of Bengaluru, and then we have to discuss the extent of water crisis within which we have to quote certain reports and committees suggestions, right? And then we have to discuss the policy measure. We have to discuss, so that is why we have to show positive points and negative points as well, right? And then we have to give certain suggestions so that we can improve water management in Indian cities. We can ensure sustainable water management in Indian cities, right? So in introduction, we need to briefly introduce the concept of water crisis, specifically in the Bengaluru, because it is asking a recent context. Then we have to explain the magnitude, reasons for water crisis in urban India, and various policies taken to improve the situation to ensure sustainable water management in India. Then we have to explain the challenges and possible policy measures to improve the situation. Then in conclusion, we have to give certain innovative solution or suggestion, such as summarize the need for immediate and long-term measures. So we can categorize immediate and long-term measures, and for which we have or we can suggest one water policy in this regard. So through this, we are concluding our discussion. If you like our initiative, please like, share, and subscribe. Thank you so much.